I still remember that night, the low hum of music, the clinking of glasses, the polite laughter that filled the air like smoke you couldn't quite escape. My wife, Alina, looked stunning that evening, dressed in a deep wine-colored gown that seemed to catch every bit of light in the room. She was radiant, confident, a side of her I'd seen before but never in such a public way. The company had rented out a luxury rooftop lounge, and everyone from interns to executives had gathered to celebrate the closing of a major deal. I wasn't really supposed to be there, just the plus one, the husband people smiled politely at before turning back to business talk. I didn't mind. I was proud of her, proud of how far she'd come, proud of the woman she was. That is, until I saw the man who seemed to think he had a right to touch what wasn't his. Her boss, Daniel. He was the kind of man people described as charming, confident, powerful, the kind who believed the world bent for him just because it always had. At first, I brushed off the way he leaned in too close, the way his hand lingered a little longer than necessary when congratulating her. Maybe I wanted to believe it was harmless. Maybe I just didn't want to be that husband, the jealous one. But then I saw it. His hand, casually sliding around her waist as he whispered something that made her laugh nervously. And when he saw me watching, he smirked. A slow, deliberate smirk. Then he laughed, not at a joke, not with anyone else, but at me. That laugh didn't leave my mind. It followed me through the rest of the night like a mosquito in the dark, small, but impossible to ignore. Alina tried to make light of it later, saying I was reading too much into things. He's just friendly, she said. It's how he talks to everyone. But the tone in her voice wasn't steady. It cracked slightly, and I caught the flicker of discomfort in her eyes. I didn't push further. Instead, I played the quiet observer, the man who waits, watches, and lets the truth reveal itself. Over the next few weeks, I noticed changes. Late nights became common. Her phone, once left carelessly on the table, was now guarded like a secret vault. She smiled less, laughed less, and there was this new distance between us, one I couldn't cross no matter how hard I tried. I began showing up at her office unexpectedly, under the pretense of picking her up or bringing lunch. Every time, I found the same thing, Daniel lingering nearby, watching her with that same predatory confidence, the kind of look that made my skin crawl. I realized then that I wasn't dealing with a harmless flirtation. He was testing boundaries, both hers and mine. And Alina, caught between her fear of losing her job and the pressure to stay composed, was trapped in the kind of silence that slowly destroys a person. I could see it, the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her smile faltered whenever she saw his name flash across her phone. She wasn't happy. She wasn't safe. And I knew it was only a matter of time before something broke. The breaking point came on a Friday night, 3 weeks later. Another party, smaller, more private, Daniel had said. A few close members of the team to celebrate a new promotion. Alina didn't want to go. I could tell by the hesitation in her voice, the way she twisted her ring when she spoke. But she felt she had no choice. That night, I followed her. Not out of jealousy this time, but out of instinct. I waited outside the restaurant for nearly an hour, hidden just far enough to watch through the glass. She sat at the end of a long table, surrounded by laughter and wine. Daniel was beside her, leaning in too close again, his hand brushing her shoulder in a way that made her flinch. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears, but I stayed calm. Then, as if daring me to do something, he placed his hand on her waist, again, and looked straight toward the window, toward me. That same mocking grin. That same silent laugh. It was enough. I walked inside, every step heavy, every breath deliberate. The room quieted when they saw me. Alina's eyes widened. Daniel leaned back in his chair, smirking like a man who believed he was untouchable. "Can I help you?" he said, his tone dripping with arrogance. I didn't answer. I just walked up to him and placed my hand on the back of his chair. "You already did," I said quietly. He laughed again, that same laugh, and that's when I struck. Not with my fists, but with something far sharper. I pulled out my phone, opened the screen, and played a recording, his voice, slurred from a drunken call he'd made to Alina a week earlier, confessing exactly what he'd done, exactly what he planned to do. The room fell silent. Every face turned toward him. Every smile vanished. And as the recording ended, I leaned in close and whispered, "You should have laughed while you still could." The fallout was swift. HR got involved. The board did, too. Within a week, Daniel was gone, not just from the company, but from the city altogether. Alina resigned soon after, exhausted and broken by the weight of it all. We spent months trying to piece things back together, but some things, once cracked, never quite returned to what they were. I didn't blame her, not really. She hadn't invited his behavior, hadn't encouraged it. She'd just been caught in the crossfire of someone else's arrogance and my own silent rage. There were nights she'd wake up trembling, whispering apologies I didn't need to hear, and I'd just hold her until morning. Because despite everything, I still loved her, maybe more than before. But something in me had changed too. That laugh, his laugh, had burned a scar into me. It taught me that silence in the face of disrespect isn't peace, it's surrender. And I would never surrender again. Looking back now, I don't take pride in what I did, but I don't regret it either. Some lessons demand a price, and that night, he paid his in full. People say revenge doesn't heal, maybe they're right. But sometimes, it stops the bleeding long enough for you to remember who you are. Did this story touch your heart? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more hearts can feel these stories too.